Anyway, what are you doing?
Hey, Steph, can you go to Facebook and see if you could hear me okay? Thanks. Hey, Denise, how are you? Hope you had a good Christmas. Hey, Abraham, Bob. Hello, Meredith. Lower that. Hey, Stephen, Courtney. Happy almost New Year. Hey, Rob, how you doing, buddy? I think I'm driving. Well, I probably won't be that close to you, Rob. I think I'm driving out to Amarillo instead of flying. I didn't know how close I'd be coming through Arkansas. Hey, Joe, what's up, buddy? Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Huh? Yeah, Joe Camacho. You know Joe Camacho? It's my buddy from Arizona. He's the one who took me to Minadito, the white Mexican guy. No relation to Hector, I don't think. No relation to Hector, right, Joe? You guys believe it's... Hey, Joey. How you doing, buddy? Tammy? You believe it's the end of the year, man? This year's got to go. Hello, Amber. We'll give people a minute to jump on here. I had no intentions on doing a live tonight, but some very awesome people gave me a beautiful, beautiful bottle, and I needed an excuse to drink some of it tonight, and I like having a drink on my lives. Hey, Carolyn. And they gave me something else, too. I won't even tell the dudes what I got because you'll be so jealous. Hey, Will, how are you, buddy? Hope you're doing well. We'll give people a second here to jump on. I think I just needed that social interaction. Too much time on my hands these days, you know? You know what I mean? Yeah, I know, Lauren. I debated whether or not to because I think the lives are a little more informative and beneficial when I'm not having a cocktail. But I said, you know what? I have to open this beautiful bottle. Hey, Ryan. And so we'll just have a good conversation tonight, hang out with you guys, you know. It's an interesting topic. And the reason I brought it up is because I kind of had a lot of interactions with people over the past couple of days that were pertaining to that. Hey, Dallas, how are you, buddy? All right, 7:02. We got plenty of people on here. Yeah, no, there's definitely no filter, Lauren, and that's what scares me. Hey, Chris, how are you, buddy? Hey, do it. You deserve it. And it's a new year, you know, 2021. Hello, Jeff. Going to be much better. Donna, I spent, what'd she say there? Spent a week in a hotel with 6 Malinois puppies. Yeah, you need a drink, Donna. I'm going to have one for you for sure. You know, like my shirt. Rottweiler. Thank you, Greg. I love my sweatshirt. Today we've had 2 dogs here for almost 2 months, just helping somebody out that was in the process of a move. And they were coming to get them today. And my wife literally made me change my clothes. Like there was no getting around it. Made me change my clothes. She said I look like a mix between NWA and like the mountain people from Eastern Kentucky, which I think is a pretty fantastic look because that kind of describes who I am anyway. So I thought it was kind of nice. She did not let me stay that way. She made me change my clothes. All right. So I made a post today about punishment. I forget exactly what the comment was, but it was something to the fact, yeah, Carolyn, I did tell my wife that if for some reason I have to get up, I won't say why, she needs to sit in here and take over. She could drink her wine. She can answer questions about whatever you guys want of our family, whatever, just in case. Just in case. Oh, so basically I said something to the fact that punishment for doing wrong, can create clarity at times. Punishment for getting something wrong can create a lot of chaos. And the reason I brought that up, and some of you understand, I talk to a lot of pet dog people every day, guys, a lot of people, more than most would ever imagine. And it still blows me away to this day how many people really struggle, like really struggle. One of the things that brought this up was I did a video consultation last night with a pretty awesome young lady. And it wasn't a paid consultation, nothing like that. It's just someone that's coming to one of my seminars. So what I started doing was we have seminars booked for throughout the whole year. So in order to try to get the most bang for your buck, if you're coming to a working spot with me, I want to start meeting people beforehand and working on problems a little bit and helping them as much as I can before we even get to the seminar. And I think that's going to help the whole process during the workshops a great deal. And I've really enjoyed it. Now, when these people show up, instead of being really scared to death and nervous, you've already had some interaction and you know who they are. And I think that's going to help a great deal, not only with the progress of the animal, but just getting the people comfortable, put themselves out there. And so, it was very heartbreaking to me. And this is something I see every day. She has a dog, and the dog was obtained for a specific purpose. And I won't go into details, right? That's not important. But to make a long story short, she can't use the dog for those details because it's got, major aggression or reactivity issues, can't do anything with it. So to move past that quickly, she did find a trainer. She's very attached to the dog and wanted to do the right thing. And she got a purely positive trainer. Now, you folks that know me I'm not a purely positive trainer basher. I don't do that. I don't bash a lot of trainers. I have a lot of people on that side of the fence that I get along with very well. I haven't received a lot of grief from that side of the fence because I don't give them reason to, And there are good trainers out there that don't use tools and don't use punishment, and they know certain dogs are over their head that they can't deal with. Well, this young lady, didn't pay a ton of money, but a few $100s, worked with a trainer that literally did nothing the whole time. Nothing. Met a few times. They observed. She asked questions. She didn't get much answers. And there was just nothing. Like, it was a total waste of time. And then I guess he probably realized this is way above his pay grade. There's nothing he can do with the way he trains. So just stopped returning her calls and disappeared. And then she invested a good amount of money, a few $1,000s in a board and train with a company. And dog came back worse, a lot worse, except now it's scared to make a mistake because it was fried with the e-collar. Some people don't hear me say that. They believe that I'm going to add to this tool being taken from us. It is what it is, guys. Anyone who trains dogs knows it's still an issue to this day. Doesn't mean the tool is bad. There's just people out there using it that shouldn't be. That's no secret. I'm a very small fish in the pond. I don't have the power to get a tool banned or kept. I fight real hard to keep us to have the right to do that by promoting the proper use. Not that my way is the only way, or I'm God's gift to e-collar training or dog training, but I work really hard at showing people the capabilities of that tool while still maintaining compassion for the animal. And so dog came back worse. Like they lit this dog up real bad. And so what you find with a lot of people, trainers and dog owners, more important for trainers because they should know this, they don't have a good understanding of punishment. They just don't. They don't know how to use it. They don't know when to use it. They don't know how much to use. They don't know what things to punish for, what things not to punish for. And that comes with experience. It just does. There has been times where people believe that I didn't use punishment. Not that I was a purely positive trainer, but I didn't believe in punishment. That's not true. You can't train dogs without the use of punishment. You just can't. I think that word scares a lot of people. Okay. And there's a lot of people who say, well, he doesn't use the e-collar to ever punish dog. Well, that's not true either. I don't have to do it often, but again, not true. We do whatever that specific dog needs. So this young lady has made a tremendous amount of progress with her dog, like a tremendous amount. So when she was telling me this, I was like, okay, great. Well, that's I'm so glad to hear that. Like, what have you done? And she said she just started consuming my videos, watching my videos. She went back and started the e-collar stuff all over and made a big difference. And where she was still struggling was getting the dog to respond when there were real distractions around. Okay. And so I said, okay, explain that to me. And she told me exactly what the issues was. I asked her to break down her training, what she was doing, where she was at. And she told me, and it's okay. Now I understand what it is. And the reason being, she's kind of stuck at a standstill where she's done a really good job. She's got the dog reprogrammed with the e-collar to where the dog is comfortable, doesn't have an issue with it. But whether she knows it or not, she's not comfortable. And she's scared to do a little too much, most likely because she doesn't believe in her ability and because of what the dog has been through in the past. Okay? The excessive punishment when there was no clarity for the animal. So to answer that one question, some of you people asked about that. One of the questions was, and I'll get to some of the questions you guys sent soon, can you explain once e-collar related, once the e-collar is conditioned properly and you spend enough time in that intermittent phase and you're getting out to new places and there's real distractions and you're doing distance work, they said, can you explain how you use punishment with the e-collar specifically at that point? It's okay, but that's very simple, and that's a good basic question that will cover a lot of this stuff, okay? Where most people fail, where a lot of people fail when it comes to the e-collar stuff, no matter what they say, and I talk to these people daily, a lot of people will tell me, hey, I use the e-collar just like you. Done everything you've done. I don't do anything different. And then I watch what they're doing, and it's not even close. It's still very punitive. It's still very negative. And I don't mean in a negative reinforcement kind of way. I just mean it's a stop, stop, stop instead of a go, go, go. All right. So they may do the conditioning process correct, and then right away, it's only being utilized when the dog does not do what it's supposed to. That's always going to be a problem. You're always going to create a lot of conflict and a lot of chaos there. So in the situation, when can I and how can I start implementing punishment with the e-collar? Well, it depends. I don't use it for a while to punish mindset problems, behaviors, as opposed to voluntary issues. What do I mean by that? If you have a dog that digs holes, chews on your rose bush, jumps on your picnic table or your counters, runs up and down the fence, barks excessively outside, these are things that are just behaviors that the dog has full control of. Okay? Full control of. The beautiful thing about the e-collar is it makes that communication with the dog when it's away from you. Very, very simple, whether for good or whether for bad. All right. So all of those things can be corrected with the e-collar without any negative blowback because you've already put in the work. Where most people fail, and this is where this young lady was going wrong, they get very caught up on numbers. Okay. What I mean by that is they get so caught up on the working levels that they're using during the training, during the conditioning phase, where there's very minimal distractions. Even when you move into that intermittent phase and you start adding more real life scenario, they still get very caught up on numbers, and they're always scared about putting a little too much pressure on the dog. And that's okay to be cautious. I'm very conservative myself, but there comes a time where you have to let the dog know, now you have to do this. And that's what's going to keep the dog strong-minded and give you the ability to communicate what you need the dog to do. Okay. So in the beginning, when we're teaching something, we're going to take our time and we're going to show the dog what we want, right? We're going to show the dog very clearly. I use a lot of luring, a lot of rewarding, a lot of food. Then we're going to motivate the dog to do so. And we're going to practice tons of repetitions. Okay. That's what we're going to do over and over and over. And we're going to just keep working until that gets better. Now, once the dog truly knows the behavior, then we can make the dog do it. Okay. So in the case of this young lady, if she has her dog off leash or even on a long line, and the issue she was having in particular, if there were squirrels or animals around or the nose was in the ground on a scent, the dog would just completely blow off the recall. And I think the example she gave, like if she's working with the dog without distractions, the dog's working on a 4 to a 6 on a mini educator, something like that. And, people may go up to a 10 or a 12 or a 14 in the real world. That's not going to cut it, guys. That dog's not even going to perceive that when it's in the real world, especially when it comes to the nose, or you have a dog with high prey drive and it's watching squirrels and birds and cats and rabbits and deer. That's not realistic. And so what a lot of people will do is they'll go out to this scenario, whether the dog's on a long line or not. The dog will be at a distance. They call the dog doesn't come. They start tapping the e-collar and they get no response. And then they start using the leash too much, or they start cranking up the e-collar. Okay. Let me say again, if that's what you do, that's your business. I'm just telling you what I do, and I don't do that. Okay. I set the dog up from success immediately before we go out there. What does that mean? If I know I'm going out to practice recalls in a real world scenario where there's going to be very distracting things that my dog wants, or I'm just going to run around a park or go on a hike with my dog off leash, that e-collar is going to be set to the appropriate level that when my dog does not respond off leash, I can reinforce that behavior immediately and seriously. Okay, let me be more specific. Let's say I'm working Buddy, our golden doodle, right? High energy, happy-go-lucky dog. If I'm have him working on the e-collar, he's going to be your average dog, 4, 5, 6 on a mini educator, right? So let's say me and Buddy are going on a hike down to Percy Warner Park in Nashville. We're going out on the trails, out in the woods where there's deer, a lot of dogs, all kinds of animals. I'm not going on a 6 or a 10 or a 12 and then looking for his level, because the second you give that dog the command and it doesn't respond, you want to make that timing in that window very clear to the dog that you know this well. I've taken the time and the care to show you. You understand what this e-collar stimulation means. There's no confusion, and now you have to do it. And so the second you start looking for levels and you're going up and you're going higher and higher and higher, two things happen there. For one, your timing is destroyed. You just missed out on a beautiful training opportunity, right? So the perfect opportunity there to reinforce what the dog knows and you took the time to teach is you're out on the trail and Buddy sees a deer and he takes off. The second he does that, my e-collar is already going to be set on an appropriate level, a 40, a 50, a 60, whatever number is going to let him know, wrong answer. You can't do that. Okay. Think about it. You're putting the dog's life at jeopardy here, right? That's still not high, guys. That's quick. Fraction of a second correction to stop the dog in his tracks because he's been taught properly. Now, what a lot of people do is they're scared to use that tool to implement a correction. So what they do is they start going up, tapping, tapping, tapping until finally the dog responds. And what you have to understand about these dogs is when you start implementing these little nagging, useless corrections, right? And you keep going up until you find the appropriate level, what happens is very quickly the dog starts to adapt to accept the higher level corrections, and it doesn't faze them. And so the answer is to go high quickly, stop what the dog already knows, and then you'll be able to go much lower. Now, I have to be careful in saying that because I don't want people going out and just cranking up an E. That's exactly the opposite of what I'm trying to tell you. You folks that are going out and asking for miracles with these dogs off leash without putting in the proper amount and the proper amount of time to teach the dog what that weird sensation means. I can't even believe we're still talking about this, but we're going to do it. You're never going to win, and the dog's never going to win. Okay, so a lot of you are taking the e-collar to teach the obedience that the dog doesn't know very well. I'm doing the opposite, the way I do it, the way my clients do it. Okay, so it's not just my dogs. You look at my clients' dogs, they're off leash and they're doing well and they're happy. Most of them have never seen a high level correction because what we're doing is we're teaching the obedience well, the basics, come, sit, down, place, walk next to me, night. We're teaching that stuff through positive reinforcement. We're teaching it till the dog knows it very well. And then we're taking that obedience that the dog knows well to teach it what that strange stimulation means. We're doing the opposite of what most do. I'm not the only one that does this. There's plenty. So don't think I'm saying I made something up. I didn't. But there's still so many doing it wrong. What do I mean by that? Okay, your dog knows the recall really well. He knows. Fido, come. He knows. Turn around, come to you. Fido, come. Turns around, comes. He knows it well, right? Now we have the dog on a 10-foot leash for the first time with the e-collar on, right? The dog's never felt the stimulation. So now we find the dog's lowest level that he perceives. That's where we're starting, right? And when that e-collar comes on, before we even say the dog's name, the e-collar comes on, Lola, he feels something. It's like, what the hell is that? I don't know what that is. It's a strange sensation. But now he hears Fido. He pays attention, come. He knows that. So the second he turns around to respond to what you just told him, he sends that strange sensation away. He turns it off. He produces the marker word, which he should know, the reward marker, very well, which should build speed to you. And then he receives a reward, which is normally food. That's the process the dog learns what that strange stimulation means. And we do that until the dog knows it inside and out, so that down the road, when your dog is running up and down the fence fighting with the neighbor's dog, or he's digging in your garden, and you can set the dog up at a high enough level to stop that dog in his tracks from inside your house, you punish that behavior you want to stop. Even if it's at a much higher level, you're never going to experience a negative blowback from the dog. Never. Not going to happen. I know, because I've been doing it for a long time, but not only because of that, because I receive thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of emails every month from all over the world where everyday average normal people have achieved this with their dogs off leash. So can you use the e-collar for punishment? Absolutely. Where it gets to be an issue, guys, whether no matter what tool you're using or not using, when you start punishing these dogs for something they don't know why they're punishing, you create a lot of chaos. Okay? A lot of chaos. And it's wrong. What do I mean by that? Take a sip. We see it every day in the pet dog world. Someone starts teaching the place command to a client's dog, right? It takes 5 minutes to teach a dog the place command. They start getting it right away. They start working on it, place, place, place. Now they have the dog starting to hold it a little longer. The dog gets off and they hammer the dog, whether it's with a leash, a prong collar, an e-collar, it doesn't matter. They start punishing the dog before the dog truly knows what the hell it's being punished for. Because people are so quick to believe that the dog truly knows what it's supposed to do. And very rarely is that the case, guys. I made another post the other morning about Mango. It wasn't planned. I went outside to let her out early in the morning. There's a metal chair sitting there that when she's done doing her business before she goes in, often she'll jump up there, and I love on her. That's her thing. She jumps on there, and I love on her. I give her a massage. Mango will place on anything. I don't teach the place on a place board. I teach it on anything the dog can get on comfortably. And when they know it well, I start making it more difficult to where they have to focus balance. So she knows the command, right? So just for the hell of it, I was standing where I took that picture, and I just started doing obedience. Sit down, come, heel, simple things. But then it was strange. I said, place. And when she went to the chair, she went from a heel, and we were slightly behind the chair and to the right. She actually struggled. And I was like, what the hell is this? She started sticking her head under the arm of the chair, didn't know which way to go, went to go over it, stopped, caught herself, was very confused, and then figured she'd walk all the way around the back of the chair to go around the far end to get on it. I was like, that was kind of weird because she knows this well. And then from there, I released her to a free dog, and she got the zoomies. And while she was doing the zoomies, I said, down. And she dropped to a down. And I said, sit, stand, heel. And we started doing obedience again. And I said, place, same thing. There was that confusion. I think we did 3 rounds of that. And each time she struggled with the chair. Think about how simple that is. The dog knows place well. She knows how to get on the chair well. But for some reason, there was confusion there, right? So now the 4th time when I did it, as soon as I said place, I pointed which direction I wanted her to go. She looked at me. She went around the front. She got on the chair like she was supposed to. And then each time after that, there was no more confusion. But I had to show her one time, like, hey, from back here, this way is easier and shorter. You don't have to be confused. Now, what do you think would have happened if the second she wasn't getting on the chair, I said, oh, she's being a bitch. She's being defiant. She's being bratty. Boom, I nail her. I punish her. I correct her. I yell at her. I hit her with an e-collar. I hit her with a leash. Imagine the chaos that creates in that dog's mind. It has no idea what it's being punished for because it's already in a confused state, right? Punishment is very beneficial when it's understood by the animal, but it has to be understood by the animal. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand it. So you got to really think about that and take your time and really think, okay, I'm seeing this. I'm seeing her not go in the chair, but what is the dog actually perceiving? What is the dog thinking right now? You have to put yourself in the dog's shoes. You just have to. I'm going to get to some of your questions. I could talk about this stuff all night, and I don't want to drag it along. Okay. Lauren asks, low growling at a person the dog perceives as sketchy, correct or no? It all depends, Lauren. You know, every case is specific to that dog, you know, and that situation. So I can't give that an answer, you know. If all I could do is put myself in that situation. If I'm in a public place and there's someone approaching and my dog is growling and they normally don't do that, I'm going to say, hey, knock it off, cut it out. But I'm going to be very aware and want to figure out why. I'll correct the dog and say, that's enough, cut it out. But I am going to wonder and ask myself why, and I'm going to pay attention to everything. So it's not that easy to answer. Daisy, question regarding fence charging. When would you correct? The loading phase, when the dog is glaring in the direction of the fence, or once the dog charges toward the fence? What are you using? What kind of tools are you using? Is the dog on a leash? Is the dog off leash? Is the dog on an e-collar? Was the dog e-collar trained? All these things matter, guys. So again, Daisy, I'll put myself in that situation. Okay. I'm just going to use it as if it was one of my dogs or a client's dog. Let's use a client's dog. If that's my client's dog that has that issue, right? That dog's not going to be put in that position to fence fight until the training is ahead and the dog comprehends whatever we're doing. Okay? It's not going to be put in that situation. Once it's put in that situation, that means we have off-leash control to where we can stop that stuff. Okay, so in that instance, once that dog is glaring, again, for me, the communication is very simple, basic. Hey, knock the shit off, cut it out. If it doesn't, that dog takes off, it's going to receive a high-level correction. It has to know it can't do that. But that's if you've been training and you've done everything to get to that point. So if you haven't trained that dog, you're not going to fix that. There has to be a solid foundation and a communication system and understanding there for you to stop something like that once the dog is in drive, Daisy. You have to put in the work first. And then that's easy to stop, very easy to stop. Let's see. Shonda, very interested 5-year-old border collie mix who has a large amount of energy, loves fetch, but resorts to pulling pieces off the porch if no toys are available. Also will dump the water bowl and throw it around too. How to discourage these behaviors without discouraging the play. No free use of toys, only when we play together. We can play for hours, long distance walks, weather permitting, and do training sessions, but he never really settles, always looking for something to gauge in play or paces. Well, I think in that case, Shonda, that's what you have to be working on. You know, you're taking a dog and, you know, that kind of acts like an asshole, and you're just making him a more physically fit asshole with all the activity and all the fetch and all the training. And a lot of times that can backfire on you. I love playing fetch with my dogs. That's a big part of what I do with my dogs. But I'd be working on teaching your dog how to settle first. At this point, that's more important. So all the hours that you're putting into letting this dog run, I would kind of do the opposite and teach the dog how to relax. And he wouldn't have access to get to the porch. He just wouldn't have it. Dog's going to be on a leash. He's not going to be out of my sight off leash to where he could achieve that. He's just not going to have access to it. You know, Abigail says, oh, great topic, and something that I feel like a lot of dog owners and trainers confuse and misuse. Absolutely. At what point, this is Travis, at what point and how do you correct a young dog, 6 to 8 months old, for jumping up on people? Travis, that dog would be corrected for that at 8 weeks old, okay? Not 6 to 8 months old. So a lot of people are too scared to correct puppies. You have to. You have to do it, because what happens is you have to understand something. Your puppy, if you get a puppy at 8 weeks old, that puppy's already been corrected many times from his mother, from his siblings. You have to kind of understand, how to correct a dog that's small and puppy for behaviors you don't want. And of course, there's going to be a lot of behaviors we're okay with as a puppy, but you got to be careful, So to answer your specific question, I never had a dog jump. It just doesn't happen to me. All right. So if a client's dog comes to me and one of their big issues is it jumps on everyone, that dog may jump on me one time at most, and they never do it again. What happens when these dogs jump on people, Travis, is people do a couple of things. One, they do nothing. They tell the dog no or off or down, right? Which has no consequence for the dog whatsoever. You have to understand something. The word no means nothing at all to a dog, unless there's something that follows that word that makes that activity uncomfortable for the dog. Okay? So if you said no and then gave a really firm leash pop on that dog, it would probably never jump again. Another thing people do, the dog goes to jump, and now the people move back. No. But now you just gave that dog that space. I've talked about how dogs use space quite a bit, respecting your space, right? You give that dog that space, right? As to where if you say no and jump into that dog and hit that dog with the knee and push him off and stand your ground, it's all how you deliver the information to the dog too. That dog needs to think like, this son of a bitch is about to kill me. That's what the dog has to think. I gave you another example. The two dogs that were just here, like I said, for almost 2 months, one of the issues they had is the older dog is very dominant over the younger dog. They're both adult dogs. And the owner told me the older one, when they get excited, the older one will hump the dog, right? When I get excited, I hump things too, but it's not always permitted. You have to be careful. And so the first time he did that, when they started running around and playing, I was watching. And the second he went to hump the younger dog, I went after that dog like a friggin' spider monkey. Like he nearly crapped his fur, because he thinks right now I'm coming to kill him. And that's what he needs to think, because you cannot jump on that dog and mount him. Unacceptable. You can't do it. He has to know you can't do that. But more importantly, the dog that's being mounted has to know you don't have to worry about this. I will take care of it, right? A lot went on that first time. In 2 months, he half-assed tried it a couple of times and caught himself. But at that time, all I had to say is, don't do that. And he'd be like, all right, I got you. You're still here. You know what I mean? But that first interaction, and it's the same thing with the jumping there, Travis, has to be some kind of consequence for the dog. Listen, to teach something, and listen, guys, I'm a very light-handed trainer. I don't use a lot of punishment. But when I have to use it, I'm going to use it correctly. And I'm going to make it to where it's effective, right? To teach something, we use good feelings. We use tons of repetitions with positive reinforcement and food and toys and play and praise. And we teach it and we practice it over and over and over. That's how we teach something, right? To stop something that has to stop takes one time, not repetitions, takes one time. But the proper use, the timing, and the firmness of that punishment has to be direct. The dog has to understand it, okay? Has to understand it. Mango's first correction came at 8 weeks old. I've used this example all the time. 8 weeks old, she was punished for the first time physically by me. Again, I don't do a lot of physical punishing with dogs, right? I use a lot of spatial pressure. I use a lot of things like that. I use a lot of touch. I like leash, but I don't use a lot of physical punishment. But if I have to, I'm going to. Mango was 8 weeks old. We're in the street. There's a dead bird. She's looking at me like, why are you telling this? She's right here by my feet. There's a dead bird. She goes to put her nose in the bird like puppy's going to do. And I said, Mango, leave it. And I pushed her away. She don't know leave it, but I'm starting to implement it now. Right? One time. Second time, she went right back into it and I said, leave it. And I pushed her away a little firmer. She went a third time. I took the scruff of that neck and I gave it a real good pinch and twist to where she yelled. Heep! That was it. Walked away, never went near the bird again. right? Did she hold a grudge? No. Did I do it out of anger? No. I gave her a chance. I probably shouldn't have given her that many chances, but she has to know you putting your face in dead animals, not acceptable. Okay. How does she know it's not acceptable? Because it just became uncomfortable, right? And there's a difference between being deliberate and being an asshole. And I'm never an asshole when it comes to implementing punishment. I'm very deliberate. There's a big difference, guys, a big difference. And for me, I truly believe that punishment and corrections, however you want to say it, go a lot further when there's already a strong relationship there. I think it goes much further. Okay. I've had a few dogs here that if I would have corrected them within those first few days, they would have probably tore me up pretty good. But later on in the program, after they trust me and we have a strong bond and they do something stupid like grab my arm and I lay into them physically, say, we don't do that, it's never going to be an issue. So like, oh my gosh, okay, I get it. You know, so all that comes into play. Ellie, how much should I correct a 15-week-old Malinois for pulling on leash? He walks wonderfully on leash, walking away from the house, but when I turn around and come back, while pulling occurs, he will engage with me and perform some obedience lures. All right, great question, Ellie. Here's the thing. Great question. Almost all young dogs will walk fine when walking away from your home. Almost all young dogs will pull to get back to your home on the way back. That's a normal thing. At 15 weeks, Ellie, I'm not worried about the dog walking nicely. I'm going to let the dog be a dog. I'm going to put him on a long line or a flexi lead, and I'm going to just let him be a puppy. That's what he is. Let him explore. That's it. I'm not worried about a structure walk at that point, because when he's old enough and I decide now we're going to teach him how to walk nicely, it's going to take me a few minutes to teach that. It's not even an issue, you know. But at that age, I want the dog to be a puppy and explore. I'm not going to worry about it. And here's the thing. If you're trying to push him walking nicely with you and he's not, and you continue to go on these walks, then you're just rewarding that behavior that you don't want. So stop going on walks. Put your time and effort into training instead of going on a walk, because to be honest, I love the structured walk for, you know, all dogs, especially pet dogs and client dogs, but it's not much exercise for a young Malinois. It just isn't. So I'd rather provide some physical and mental stimulation for a young Malinois without going on a walk. Let him use his nose. Let him use train and drive. Teach him, you know, work on capping that drive and you know, start adding more complication to things. But at 15 weeks old, let him be a puppy. I wouldn't worry about it. Shauna, what are some ways you explain to the owners how to see when their dog is confused, as opposed to them assuming their dog is being stubborn or just won't listen? Hey, that's a great question, Shauna, and here it is. That's never an issue. That's never an issue, because as dog trainers, our number one job is the owner education. That's it. And I am very fortunate to be able to work with some amazing people. Okay. And so I start off teaching people in the most simplest way possible. You have to remember, these dog owners are not dog trainers. Well, shit, most dog trainers don't understand the complexities of dog training. So imagine an everyday dog owner, and you're trying to throw all this information out and trying to teach them about body language and quadrants and negative reinforcement and negative punishment. I don't do that stuff. Man, I don't do that stuff. You know, I don't even go near that stuff. When I take on a client, especially in the beginning, I keep it so unbelievably simple and basic that punishment's not an option for them at this point. They don't need to worry about it, because we're not going to put them and the dog in that situation. Okay. It's going to be weeks into our training before we even give the dog an opportunity to do things where the owners have to worry about that, because then by that time, the owners get it very, very well. And that's why when I go back week to week to see my owners, listen, week one, it's going to be the same with all owners. Even though I keep it unbelievably simple and basic, and I tell them all, you're going to screw this up all week and you're going to make a ton of mistakes and you're not going to do a lot right. But because of what we're teaching and how we're teaching it, you're not going to mess your dog up. And when I see you next week, I'm going to have you demonstrate what you've been doing, and then we're going to fix all the mistakes, and you're going to understand the first week better. And that happens every time. And what happens is each week we work on new stuff. They may struggle a little bit, and I'll give them the week to make their mistakes. And then the following week, let me see your work, and I allow them to make the mistakes. I want the people to make the mistakes, just like I want the dogs to make the mistakes. Because when you allow them to make the mistakes and show them the way it has to be done, they learn so much and they learn so fast. Okay, really, it makes a huge difference. Let's see. Jordan, yes, think about a kid playing a guessing game with his parent. The parent warmly provides directions by saying warmer or colder to each guess. While colder says you're wrong, it still encourages the kid to want to continue and use the information feedback to get closer to the answer. If these hints are too harsh, the child will shut down. If the child sees the hints as a fun part of the game, he will stay engaged and work towards the desired answer. This is dog training. We need to teach the dog when it gets a no and when it gets a colder or warmer. Absolutely, Jordan. I love that analogy. Go back and watch the video with the Black German Shepherd, Patton. Okay? Ton of people hit me up after that video where we were going to work on his down with his food as a distraction for the first time. Okay? I think that's one of the videos I got some of the most positive feedback I've ever received, because it opened people's eyes to how they were punishing the dog too quickly. What I did with that, it's very basic, nothing fancy, but Patton's a real high drive dog with really high food drive, beautiful dog bred by Terry McCormick, right? Bane Vom Housemouth is his name. And he spent a lot of time with me. And I told people as I was filming, I'm going to put Patton in a down at the end of the yard, and I'm going to come back by the camera and put his food down. And when I put his food down, he's going to break the down. I knew he was going to do that because he hasn't been taught how to hold that with that kind of distraction around him yet. And I said, I don't care if he breaks it 10 times. I'm not going to punish him. He doesn't know how to do that. But you see, in so many people's minds, they think he knows how to down. He knows how to stay when he's in a down. Not in that situation, he doesn't. Not even close. And so the second he gets up from that down to come get his food, if I would have physically punished him at that moment, I break all trust with that dog that I have built up until that time, and I add confusion. And more importantly, now the dog is scared to make a mistake. He may stay there the next time, but it's only because he's scared to make a mistake. He doesn't want to move. And I tell people he's going to break it several times, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to put him back in a down. And so we did that. And just like I told people he would, first several times, I put the food down, he jumped up. I said, I picked the food up, I went over, I put him right back where he was. If he came 2 feet further, I put him back to where he was. I put him in a down, I went back. Now, I don't know how many times we did that, but the last time I put the food down, he went to get up, he caught himself, and he went down. And I said, yes, or free dog, whatever I did, and I let him come fly to get his food. You think he didn't learn something in that little exercise without being punished? Oh, believe me, he did, because he never had an issue with that again, because I taught him. I taught him what the right answer was. And the second I would have punished that behavior, I break all trust with him, and he doesn't know why he's being punished. Hi, Mango. I know. Okay, so that's really, really important, guys. Really important. Okay. No punishment in dog training. It's punitive corrections and clear communication. Well, I don't know about that, Lisa. If a dog jumps up and grabs me by the arm, it's going to be punishment. Believe me. I'm going to punish that. Lauren said, okay, this is a long one. All right, ready? It's a long one. Give me a second here, Lauren. I have a dog that I've been working with for a year and a half to not aggress towards other dogs. She does okay around bigger dogs and sometimes shows an interest to play, but she despises small dogs. Some dogs are the ones who are usually running up to her acting aggressively, and I can tell that she now sees them as prey. We have done a lot of counter conditioning, and it's helped a lot, but if she sees a small, loose dog, she looks at it just like she looks at a small wild animal. We saw a small, loose dog yesterday that was shockingly ignoring us, and she still wanted to get out. I put her into a sit and stood in front of her just in case it charged her. She stood up and came around the front of me, and I punished that. I put her back in a sit, and she was still looking as if she wanted to attack the other dog, but she didn't get up. When the other dog passed us, she was scenting the air where the dog was and becoming very agitated. Even at the dog's smell, hackles up and darting eyes. We have trained for months in front yards with small dogs, and that's how she ate her meals. She can't pass other dogs barking in yards. She gets a look on her face when she hears a high-pitched bark. It's been very difficult with her. She has a really good recall while playing fetch on a long line. Today, I called her away from two large dogs. She came to me no problem and continued to play with me and ignore them. What can I do to make the transition into small dogs? She hates them. That's tough, Lauren. Okay, that's tough. Here's the deal. This is one thing I've caught a lot of shit from a lot of people in the training world at times. Okay, very rarely are you going to be able to punish aggression out of a dog. It takes a lot more than that. Not saying we don't use punishment with aggressive dogs, but this whole concept, when people start using definitions, right? They start throwing definitions around. You can't stop aggression with punishment. The definition of punishment is it stops the behavior. I can't stand when people play those bullshit games. Because that helps no one. Definitions mean nothing to me in dog training because they don't help the people. They don't help the dogs. Very rarely have I ever seen a dog that's aggressive towards other dogs or people where you could punish that out of the dog. I haven't seen it, and I've never done it. Have I used punishment with aggression? Sure. I'm working with a dog right now, Lauren, Anatolian Shepherd, Chloe, that's kicking my ass. We're struggling, okay? Owner drives 2.5 hours each way for private lessons. We've made a lot of progress, don't get me wrong. But what makes it so frustrating is she could be fine, doing fine, and then all of a sudden, certain dogs set her off, right? We've used punishment. I could tell you right now, and I very rarely use punishment in cases like that, in that scenario. I may use punishment in other areas of that dog's life, but not with the aggression itself. Punishment makes this dog just much, much worse. And she has to be muzzled because she will turn on her owner. I'm going to tell you what has worked way better with her, and that is turning to the clicker and a combination with a lot of foundational obedience and all the normal things and more structure and all that stuff. I won't get into all that. But we started marking that stress with the clicker. I did a little video with her the best I could anyway. Okay. That's what's made the most progress with her. Not marking the blow-ups or anything like that. Marking the stress has really helped that dog a lot, to where it got to the point where when she started seeing something that would normally stress her, she started looking for the owner like, hey, this is what we're supposed to do now, right? So after we were making good progress with that, I wanted to see something, and I bumped up the rules with the owner and the dog, and I took even more of her freedom away. More crate time, allowed her to do a lot less, really took control of everything. And we started seeing her turn for the worse. She just did. She didn't respond well to the things that most dogs do respond well to. And so, the owner is smart enough and cares enough to say, you know what, we're kind of losing where we gained, and she's going backwards and starting to, get a little aggressive about things she normally was. Okay, let's go back to what we were doing. And she went back to really just doing a lot of marking and a lot of clicking and a lot of training. And that's what's got that dog the furthest. I'm not going to go into the whole explanation of that there, but I've caught a lot of shit about that. You know what I mean? Because to a lot of people, that makes no sense. Why would you mark and reward the behavior you don't want? Well, you'd be surprised on what it does for a lot of these animals. And like I said, we're not waiting until the dog blows up, because when this dog blows up, she blows up. It's way too late there. But when you start marking the stressor, the second the dog starts becoming stressed, when you start marking that, what happens, and I've showed this to people in workshops on the spot, what starts happening is, shit, we did it in St. Louis in the parking lot late at night, right? What starts happening is the dog starts to learn very quickly. A lot of these dogs, the second the thing that causes the stress starts to appear, they start putting two and two together. And instead of seeing the stressful situation and then waiting for the blow up, they start turning, looking for what's coming next. It does wonderful things. I'll talk to you more about it privately, but I think that would help you a great deal. I'm almost can guarantee it would help you a great deal. You're not going to punish that out of that dog. Okay. You're not going to punish it out of the dog. Megan, I have a question about marking. You said if you mark it, then you feed it. But if I say place, then mark with yes. Then once I done with place, I say free and then feed. Aren't I feeding the free? Could you go over that? Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. We got to work on your grammar, Megan. I think you were drinking when you wrote this. Okay. And my wife said, you're drinking when you're reading it? Nice. Okay. I have a question about marking. You said if you mark it, then yes. Okay. I'm going to tell you how I do things. Okay. If I mark it with the reward marker, the reward is coming. So use place like you say. I say place, dog gets up there. Yes, I reward. Dog is free to move about, right? If I want the dog to hold it on the place, I say place, the dog places. I'm not marking it. I might say good job, keep doing what you're doing, but I'm not going to use the reward marker, right? Now, if I'm not going to reward that, because we don't reward every command the rest of the dog's life, I say free dog. Now that dog is free to get off of there and do what it wants, but I'm not feeding at that moment, okay? I'm not using the reward marker to release the dog. I mean, it is a release for the dog. I think you're overcomplicating things here very much, Megan. You don't have to reward the dog for placing. But if the dog places and you want to release it with a free dog, don't feed it. You don't have to feed everything. Overuse of food is, almost as bad as overuse of punishment at sometimes. And I've seen that. Believe me, I've seen it really do horrible things to dogs. I don't know if that answers your question, Megan, but let me know if it does. But I think you're really overthinking things. Rachel, do you mark the behavior and have the dog know that punishment is coming, the same as marking a positive behavior? A lot of dogs are unknowingly conditioned by owners that say no, and sometimes even their name mean that punishment is coming or something negative is coming to happen. Removal of an object or something that we're enjoying. And yes, sometimes they know they're getting a smack on the ass. That's a good question, Rachel. I've done it both ways. Okay. I've done it both ways. Marking a behavior, that punishment is coming with a no. It's in most cases, it's not going to hurt you. But in the both ways I've done it, in most cases, I prefer to say nothing. Okay. Now, a lot of people are going to say, if you're not marking the thing, you're correct, and the dog's not knowing why it's punished. Well, I beg to differ, because I'm telling you from experience, that's not true. Now, if the dog is jumping on counters, digging in the yard, tearing, my wires up in the yard, something like that, I'm never going to say anything for that. I'm going to correct that dog, and it's going to be associated with what it's doing, not with me. All right. It's just not. It depends on what the dog is doing, but so many people use no so often, there's no meaning to it. And so many people use the dog's name, just like you said, that it almost becomes a command, Fido, 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 no, Fido, 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 no. It just overuse of words. I prefer not to say too much when it comes to punishment, but that's just me. A lot of people will disagree with that, and I've done it both ways, and I learned from someone far superior to me a long time ago that don't say nothing, punish. And then I saw so many other people doing it the other way, so I tried it that way, and I could tell you I prefer not saying too much in most cases. Not all cases, but in most cases. Dallas, my buddy Dallas, this isn't punishment related necessarily, but I wonder if you could explain the difference between a structured walk and just a regular walk and the purpose of each. Yeah, okay. Good question, Dallas. Here's the thing. For me, pet owners, a structured walk is an extremely valuable tool. Okay. If you can't get your dog to walk nicely at your side with no tension on the leash, and not sniffing the ground and peeing and pooping everywhere, you have to conquer that first before you can tackle any other behavioral problem. It's as basic as it gets. So a structured walk, Dallas, is the dog is at your side and has one job. That's to be with you, to follow you. There's no sniffing. There's no peeing. There's no pooping. When you get to a place where you want the dog to do those things, maybe to go to the bathroom, then you take it over there, or you say free dog or whatever your release command is, and now the dog can go be a dog. Okay, it could sniff, it could pee, it could poop, and you decide how long you want it to do that, and when you're done, it's back to the walk. All right, now just a free walk, that means for me, if my dogs are on leash, then it's usually a structured walk. If the dog is on leash with me, it's at my side. Okay. If the dog is off leash and we go for a walk, then I'm usually allowing them to be on a free walk. That means they don't have to be at my side. They could just go out and be dogs, right? But they have to stay within a certain distance. They can't get too far ahead. If they get too far ahead, I say, hey, over here, Mango. And she'll come back and she'll stay a little closer, but there's just not a lot of rules and boundaries there. They could sniff, they could pee, they could poop, they could be dogs. And I do both with mine. A lot of times Mango walks a lot with me, and we usually start off on leash and structured walk, at my side. And we do that. We go together, and it's a beautiful moment, and we enjoy it together. But usually on the way back from our walk, she's off leash and she still is at my side to a certain point, and then I release her free dog and I'll let her run and be a dog. Okay, so I do both. Kathy, yes, would love to hear your thoughts of the degree of punishment used to clarify the dog's understanding. That depends, Kathy. It depends on the dog. I can't correct a Yorkie the same way I can correct a Rottweiler. You know what I mean? And I can't correct that same Rottweiler for, jumping on me the same as I would for trying to bite my child, So that varies. I would, it has to, the punishment kind of has to fit the crime, you know what I mean? But you also have to take the dog and the size of the dog and the sensitivity of the dog. There's a lot to take into play here, Tyler, I'm a first-time dog owner and obviously not very experienced with dogs. You talk about the power of punishment in a lot of your videos, but never what the punishment is. Does it change depending on the dog, or is it the same, just change with intensity? Thank you for everything you do. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, absolutely. And I talk power of, I don't, like I said, that makes it sound like I'm very pro punishment and use a ton of punishment, and it's opposite. I don't use a lot of punishment, not at all. But unfortunately, you have a large segment of the dog training world out there that is anti-punishment, and those are the trainers and the people and the side that panders to the general public, right? That's why those trainers on that side are the big names in the world. The Zach Georges, the Victoria Stillwells, these trainers that blatantly lie to people. They're not honest people. I don't care if someone chooses to be a purely positive trainer. I'll talk to you and have conversations with you and even support you if you're not harming animals. But it's just fraud what they're doing. They're not honest, and they can't train dogs. You know, you'll never see them train a difficult dog because it's not possible for them. They don't have the ability. They just don't. And very few of these purely positive trainers will take on difficult cases because they can't. You can't fix everything with a cookie. Now, with that being said, when we were at the IACP conference this past year, and Grisha Stewart was speaking, who's a very popular purely positive trainer, and she's the founder of BAT, Behavioral Adjustment Training. And she was speaking about that. You could almost feel the tension, people in there not believing it and stuff. And so I spoke up and I said, just so you people know, this is something that I use as part of my program. I use it very often with aggression cases. I also use CAT, constructional aggression treatment. I use it very often and very effectively. I use everything that's available to me when I'm working with a dog that has issues. Everything. I don't do one thing. And so I take a lot of things that the purely positive people do, right? And so unfortunately, a lot of people on the other side of the aisle, they just blow that stuff off because it's used by the purely positive people. And I think that's a huge mistake. That's a huge mistake. You look at some of the tougher cases I've had that you guys have seen, the dogs, a lot of that stuff played a big part in fixing and changing those dogs. For the long term, that's what's important, okay? For the long term. Yeah. I think that's all the questions. See if we have any questions here. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, guys. You have to educate the animal in order to punish the animal properly. There has to be an education and an understanding there. There has to be a strong foundation. It would be like taking a 17-year-old young man or woman and throwing them in jail for something they have no idea what they did wrong. You know what I mean? It's probably a stupid analogy, but it's 100% necessary to be successful in dog training. You have to understand corrections and punishment and rewards. There has to be consequences for doing good. There has to be consequences for doing wrong. You're never going to achieve what you want to achieve without utilizing both. All right? You can't do it. All right, let's talk about this. Out of the two dogs that I had here recently, one of them pooped in his pen twice in the 2 months he was here. And the reason he pooped in his pen was because it was raining outside and he don't like going out in the rain, right? Now, this used to be an issue when he was young, a big issue, not so much of an issue now, but because he probably gets away with not going in the rain, that's what he's okay with doing. Thankfully, I use a pen and not a crate, and he likes to stay away from it, so there's no mess. So after his second time of pooping in his pen, and you got to remember, when a dog stays with me, guys, they really don't have accidents because I get dogs out a lot. Like they're never inside for very long without having access to outside, okay? I'm kind of OCD like that. So after his second time pooping in his pen, the next day it was raining harder, much harder. And it was at night. He doesn't like pooping too much at night in the dark either. So now we have a nighttime, raining super hard, and I know he has to poop because I know his schedule. I know him inside and out. So this time, you're not going to poop in your pen. So now I take him outside. I don't let dogs out without me. I'm out there with them at all times. So now I walk out into the middle of my yard. He thinks he's going back inside. I said, no, get going. I use spatial pressure and I chase him out into the yard. You're going to go out there. And then I go stand out there and I just stand there like a tree. I don't look at him. I don't say a word, nothing. And he stood there like a tree, staring at me, not moving and just paralyzed because he's in the rain. I stayed there for 30 minutes without moving. But you know what he did after 30 minutes? He squatted, he pooped, and then he ran for the door. And I said, good job, buddy. And I let him in. The next day when it was raining, you know what he did? I took him outside. He walked out into the middle of the yard, pooped, and ran back inside. Now, is that punishment? Did I punish him by making him stand in the rain because I wanted to teach him a lesson? No, it wasn't punishment. He has to learn. This is what you have to do. You're a dog. If it's raining outside, you still have to poop outside. Okay? Some would say that's negative reinforcement, right? The rain goes away. You get to go inside when you poop. I don't care about what anyone would label that. Does it really matter? To me, it doesn't matter. It just makes no sense to me. Absolutely. My friend Shannon, that makes a great trainer. They don't get stuck in their way. It's their way's the only way mindset. Yeah, it's just, you can't do it. You know something, guys? I know a little bit about this stuff, but I know if I had to estimate 5 to 10% of what there is to know in dog training, you never get to the end of dog training. You never know anything. In the past 3 nights, I've probably spent 10 hours at night watching videos on Dave Croyer's subscription channel that I pay for every month because it's phenomenal, and Ivan Balabanov's Training Without Conflict videos. So I've been doing this a long time. I'm almost 50 years old. I'm in a really good place. Some would think I'm pretty successful, right, in the industry, but I don't know nearly enough as what I need to. And so probably a good 10 hours of Dave Croyer videos, Ivan Balabanov videos every night. And I'm watching videos of things that I do pretty well and I have success with, but you're always going to find something that makes you better. And so that's what I'm always trying to do, always, because it may just be one little thing that somebody at that level does that you're not, or you didn't think of, that could change everything with one dog for you. And that's what I'm looking for, that one thing that could change that one dog that I'm struggling with. But there's a lot of lazy people out there that don't want to put in that time and effort. And I'm a nerd when it comes to this shit. I love it. I absolutely love it. And so my only goal that I've been doing for all these years is I just try to educate the general public, guys, because that's where we're failing. The general dog owning public is struggling big time. And there's enough dogs for every trainer in this country to train, but you have to be legitimate and honest and not fraudulent, robbing people of their money and just trying to spit out numbers and throwing e-collars on dogs and frying them to get them in and out of a 2-week board and train and thinking that you did something, because you did nothing except fuck it up for the rest of us. And I get so tired of seeing it. I talk to people every single day that have had a bad experience. Do you know, my wife said to me when our friend was coming to pick up these 2 dogs, they're very dusty because they're outside playing. She said, aren't you going to give them a bath? I don't give dogs baths when they leave my house. She said, well, why? I said, very simple. I don't hide anything. And I'm going to tell you what I experienced several years ago. Several years ago, we were going on vacation. And normally someone comes to my house and watches our dogs. They'll let them out several times a day and they stay home. Well, I didn't have that this year. And I'm a fanatic about where I leave my dogs. I don't like boarding my dogs anywhere. And I said, you know what? Maybe I'm a little too much with this and I got to lighten up and just board the dogs at the vet. That's what everyone does, right? Why am I so worried about doing it? So I boarded our 3 dogs at the vet. And we're on our way home from Florida one Saturday, and I call the vet, and I say, hey, I'm about an hour away. I'm coming to pick up the dogs. And they got kind of nervous, and they said, well, you're not scheduled to come get them till tomorrow. I said, yeah, but I'm here today, and I'm coming to get my dogs. They said, well, we haven't given them a bath yet. I said, I don't want you to give them a bath. They're fine. I'll give them a bath. And when I got there, my dogs came. They brought my dogs out. I knew immediately my dogs were screwed up. Immediately. Like I felt this anger coming across because I could tell my dogs were not the same, and they were all soaking wet. You know why they were soaking wet? Because they gave them a bath really quick. You know why? I sat there and I started questioning them. I started asking a lot of questions. And then I got to the part, well, what was their schedule like? What times did they eat? They ate at 9 o'clock in the morning and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I feed my dogs 12 hours apart, 6 and 6 or 7 and 7. And I said, why were you feeding them at 2 in the afternoon? Why so early? Why do they have to go so long without eating? They said, well, we close at 5 o'clock. I said, whoa, okay, rewind here, Sparky. You close at 5 o'clock. Does that mean there's no one here after 5 o'clock? They said, no. I said, so my dogs are left in crates from before 5 o'clock, probably more like after 3 or 4 o'clock, till 8 or 9 o'clock the next day. They said, yeah. I said, let me guess. These two were in the same crate together, and that one was by himself. They said, well, yeah, how'd you know that? And I said, so they're pissing and shitting all over themselves. Yeah, that's normal for a lot of places. That's why a lot of places give free baths. They have to. The dogs pee and poop where they sleep. Your dog will never do that here. Never. Now, if your dog has an accident, but that doesn't happen very often. And if your dog did have an accident, the owner's going to know. The owner knew that this dog pooped in his crate both times. I told her, yeah, he pooped, Thankfully, he didn't get it on him, or else I would have given him a bath, okay? But I would have told the people. And so you guys have to understand, there's a reason. And please, I'm not saying that anyone who gives a bath after a board and train is doing that. So don't get your panties in an uproar and send them to my house. I'm just saying, these are things that go on every day that the general public doesn't understand. Okay. So I don't give the dogs a bath. I'm going to send them home dirty. Unless they're like rolling around in mud and just covered, they're going home the way they were when they were here, because I hide nothing. I want you to know what your dog has been through. 100%. If I have to correct your dog harshly for any reason, which very rarely happens, you're going to know it. I tell people, tell them everything. But that's why I don't give dogs a bath. A lot of people love that free bath because they get all the poop and pee off the dog that you didn't know they were laying in every night. That's the dog world. That's the truth. I don't mind saying that. Tim Russell, what's the best way to use the e-collar for a send away to a place when they're used to coming to you when they feel the stimulation? Okay, great. Hey, that's a good question, Tim. Salute. That's why we teach opposite behaviors from the beginning, Tim. Okay? If we're teaching the recall, we're teaching the send away or the place command. We want to teach the dog to come to us and to go away, both ways. But too many people focus only on that recall, and they wait too long to start implementing other behaviors that the dog knows. And what happens is, if there's a little confusion in there and there's a little bit of a negative feeling in the dog's mind, then they believe the only way to avoid that stimulation is to come to you and be there. That's a flaw in the training, but it's also usually a bad perception on the dog's end of things. So we got to make it better. So what we want to happen is when that e-collar comes on and you say the dog's name, the dog should be waiting for the command intently, happily. Okay, what's next? But when that e-collar comes on and the dog's always flying to you and it's nervous about moving or going anyplace else, that tells you there's a little bit of a flaw in the communication in the training. Okay, so at that point, you want to really start pushing that place command over and over and over. Teach the dog it goes both ways. But again, if it's being done in a higher level way, it's not going to be good for the dog. The dog's just doing what it was taught. You may not think that you taught that. We all do it. We teach things without meaning to do so. Okay. Jake, Larry, how do I get my whippet to stop reaching up on counters? Okay, that's easy, Jake. Two things. Either don't give him access to too much freedom, depends how old he is. Keep him on a leash. Don't let him out of your sight, or set him up. Train him first. Let me go back. Train the dog first. I don't do these things. I know many people do, and that's fine. I'm going to take a few weeks to train the dog properly. I'm going to e-collar train the dog properly, and then I'm going to set the dog up, and I'm going to be watching from another room or on a camera where he can't see me, and I'm going to correct that behavior harshly without me being there. He's not going to associate it with me. Okay, I hope that helps. Let's see. I'm just seeing if there's any more questions. Can you do a video on dogs like Lauren's muzzle walk with a couple clients in pet dog walker, even just post more on this, marking the stressor due to aggression? I have some stuff out there on it, Nicole, where I go pretty deep about it and I get real in depth. You'll just have to find it. I'm sure it's on YouTube, and I know it's on Facebook. I've done some lives just on that subject. Chris, Chris is a client. Oh, and she starts turning as soon as I hit the button now, before I even say come. Is that goal, or do I need to start doing something different? Chris, we'll start doing something different when I see it. That's all I wanted from her, Chris. You know, so every dog, I work on that specific dog. And to be able to get her tuned in the way she is now, Chris, that's where I wanted to be. So I'm really happy with that. Now, next time I see you in a week or so, Chris, we'll start adding more to where she has to pay more attention and focus on the words that are coming out of your mouth. You'll start having a good time now with it, buddy. I promise. Don, this would be a new bottle of Weller 12 year that very awesome people gave me today as a thank you. And when you treat people right, I feel like I'm messing up after our last session when our lady was on a 6. Today, when I was working her, I had to use a 15 to even get a reaction. Is that normal? I read the book the past week, really enjoyed it, especially the stories at the end. Probably not making good contact, Chris, but at the same time, too, with her being a very drivey dog like that, she's going to get accustomed to it very easily. That's not a big deal. That's not really high. I'll take a look at it when I see you here soon. Just don't worry about the number, Chris. Worry about her reaction. If she's acting fine and responding the way you want, then you're okay. You know, you're very welcome, Ryan. Thank you. I don't under what's that, Chris? You see what he wants to see. It'll work on some dogs, no doubt. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Edwin, I started doing this already. I mean, trying to do it so much. I don't know what you guys are talking about, guys. But Jeff's dogs don't react any different, or at least I haven't seen any of that. I don't, I wish you guys weren't having a side conversation. All right, Paul, let's see what this is here. Hey, can you give me a great way to explain to the owner the dog doesn't feel guilty when they know they made a mistake? Like they say, I come home and the dog tore something up, guilty. Hey, Paul, I'm just very honest with people. You know, I'm very direct. I'm no bullshit with people. I treat people well, but I have very honest conversations with them. I don't try to talk all sciency and all doggy with them. I'm very to the point and I'm very simple. I keep everything very, very simple so it makes sense to people. That's how most people learn. Okay. That's why my e-collar book is sold the way it has and is still selling after 4 years like freaking hotcakes because I made it so anyone could implement it and understand it. And that's just how I treat people. You know, it just is. Taylor, I'm not on team bunking either. I don't know enough about it. No, I'm not either. Um, uh, I'm trying to figure out what you guys are talking about. Matija, can you describe few ways to teach relaxing to a dog? My 2-year-old German Shepherd, reactive to other dog, gets so hyped up as soon as the doors of our apartment open for us to go out. Starts panting heavily, and he's in high drive from the first second while exiting the building, sensing other dogs in the building. From 1 to 10, my dog is at 15 as soon as the doors open. I don't get the gradual introduction to the stress source only after 30 or 40 minutes. Matija, there's no easy answer for that, I'm afraid. You need a really good trainer, and a lot of these shepherds, a lot of shitty bred shepherds out there, unhealthy, nervy, whiny, skittish. I'm not saying yours is, but I see more of what you're describing than any other breed by far. And that's not something you're going to fix on your own, or not something I can give you advice to change. You need someone who really knows what the hell they're doing, unfortunately. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that, buddy. All right. I think I'd have no idea. Justin, Ramey, do you follow the canine paradigm? Absolutely. Glenn, Patter, great guys, great trainers, and I've been on there. I've done an interview on there, maybe two. I'm not sure, but yes, I have interviewed. They're great guys, really great guys, extremely knowledgeable, and by far one of the best podcasts out there, as far as I'm concerned. Christy, I'm starting out. Can you recommend any trainers in Australia that I can follow? Well, we just mentioned Pat and Glenn. They're in Sydney. There's actually a lot of trainers in my buddy Alex Edwards is down. Is he in the Melbourne area, or was that Gold Coast? I can't remember. My friend Ness Jones is out there. Ernie Frappa is out there. I did some seminars out there last year. A lot of great trainers in Australia. More than I know anyway. Let me see. Fernando. Any tips on how to set kids up for a good relationship with their dog? Training a dog up from the puppy stage, 8 weeks and older. I have 2 active boys, 6 and 9. I know their energy can be seen as pressure by some dogs. Yeah, that's we had dogs when my kids were young, Fernanda, and you really just have to educate the kids. You just have to. I want the puppies to be part of the kids' lives, and we were fortunate enough to where my kids grew up with dogs. Bruno and Sophia were born a couple of months apart, and they were inseparable. But from day one, I always taught the kids what they could and couldn't and should and shouldn't do with the dogs. It was always educating them, and little kids learn. JJ, hey, can't wait to see you, buddy. Have you had a dog that defaults to a heel when in confusion, causes issues when trying to teach the dog things like? Absolutely. A lot of times the heel is either something that they're extremely comfortable with, JJ, or it was something that they were working on recently, but it's just a comfortable position for them, and they'll always all the time. It happens quite often. Actually, it's a comfort thing. It's almost like a lot of pet dogs going between the owner's legs. It's just a comfort thing, and dogs will do that. Yeah, I have quite a bit actually, do I need to use a command no if I'm using the e-collar on high to stop from excessive barking? Depends, David. I don't know. I'd like to know the whole situation and the training level. That can go either way. Either way would probably work as long as your dog understands it. Shonda, let's see. For a dog who is conditioned to the e-collar properly, how do you determine what level to set for a correction? What is too high or not high enough. You have to know your dog, Shonda. That's one of the most important basic things here that a lot of people don't understand. You have to know your dog. Okay, I know my dogs inside and out. I know my clients' dogs inside and out. I know if they have to poop. I know if they have to pee. I know if they're not feeling well. Okay, so that's really an important part of the process that a lot of people ignore. Okay, I'm always watching and learning from my dog. So if I take a client's dog here, I know all that stuff very quickly. It doesn't take long because I'm interacting with the dog and I'm paying attention. You know, that's it. That's the only way. And you have to trust yourself, you know. All right, guys. I think that's about it. I think we got to all the questions. George, Mr. George, how are you, George? The dog can't read the number on the dial. I sometimes tape over the screen to folks keep from looking at the transmitter. And so, absolutely, George. And I think I said that earlier. The number, the level don't matter. What the dog is telling you is all that matters. And people get so caught up on numbers. I've watched people take 30 seconds to go up, 2-3 levels on an e-collar that has 100 levels. Pay attention to the dog. That's George is 100% right. The number doesn't matter. The reaction of the dog is what matters. That's it. Let's see. Who one more here? Ina Sedwell. Hi from Ukraine. Hi, Ina. I've read your book 3 times. I'm so sorry. Watched your videos for a month. I'm really sorry. Literally almost divorced with husband because of time spent with your channel. Very sorry. Bought a crate for my 7-month-old Doberman, started conditioning, 15 days took, then maintenance, still there. The dog chooses an enemy from the crowd on barks. Just one enemy out of the whole street, maybe a child or adult. I started clicking before she blows off, helped a little. Then I changed it to a tap-tap e-collar, like, I don't know how to, before she blows off, helped a little. Then I changed to the tap e-collar, but higher. I don't know how to bring up the rest of that damn question. I don't know how to bring up the rest of that, Ina. I'm so sorry. It's cut off at the bottom. Anyone know how I could bring that up? I'm trying to figure it out. Yes, I would use the e-collar for that if that's what you're asking, Ina. I'm so sorry. I can't see the bottom of your question. I'm trying to okay, now I really can. Now I can't see any of them. Oh, geez. What did I hit? Exit full screen. There. All right. I can't see the bottom of your question, Ina, but I would be okay with you correcting that at where you're at. And I'd correct it at a high level. Knock the shit off and just end it there. Okay? Let me see. Stella, how can you put e-collars in the hands of these uninformed people? It has a place in training, but most of these family dog owners don't have the experience. That's why you're training them, Stella. You're right. They don't have the experience. That's where we come in. Okay? It's our job to teach them. And my clients do a damn good job, a very good job. I never worry about my clients when it comes to the e-collar because before they ever utilize it on their own with the dog, I know that they're ready to. I put the time in with them. I become the dog. They're demonstrating on me what they're doing. They make the mistakes on me. It's very simple. It's not difficult. This stuff's a lot easier. This e-collar stuff is a lot easier than most people think. People want to fancy it up and use big terms and all these methods and secret programs. It's bullshit. It's so simple. It's so easy. And anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Even if you don't have a lot of ability with the dog or understanding, if you're taught properly in a very simple fashion, you can have a lot of success with the tool, as to where without that tool, you would struggle. And that's the truth. A lot of people will never admit that. They want to say they should, should learn to train the dog. Yeah, that'd be great in a perfect world. But your average person who works, 40, 50, 60 hours a week doesn't want to be a goddamn dog trainer. And so if you're going to have success as a dog trainer, you have to understand how to connect with people and educate them in a way that they're going to find extreme benefits. while being compassionate with the animal. And I've done a pretty good job at that for a long time, you know. Oh, Preston, thoughts on Napopo? Well, I'm a big fan. I'm a huge supporter of Bart and Michael, and I've talked about that extensively. You know, if it wasn't for Bart and his training system, you know, I don't think I would have ever had the success that I did. But that's what pushed me to go harder. Uh, I don't know where this came from, Melissa, but yes, I do agree. Listen, I don't attack people. I don't come after people. I have no respect for someone who harms dogs. Plain and simple. None. Absolutely none. Let's see. None. No respect. And you have to understand something, guys. A lot of you folks who support certain people, right? And I'm not just talking about him. A lot of people across the board. You'll never hear me speak up or say anything. But I don't know why people feel a need to confide in me, tell me things, or send me videos and show me things. Some of these people that a lot of people support out there, if you knew what went on behind closed doors, you'd change your mind really quick, because it's disturbing, really disturbing. If you talk to, you know, apprentices and employees or clients of a lot of people, you'd be blown away on what goes on in this friggin' industry. Really unbelievable, you know. Let's see, Catherine, if we signed up for a working spot at the seminar with you, are you working off a list to contact people before the seminar, or do we need to reach out to you? Neither. You don't have to do either, Catherine, but if you wanted to do some video consults with me beforehand, just hit me up, send me a text, and we'll set them up so we get to know each other before then, and maybe work on a little bit of what you have going on before then. And it's been pretty beneficial so far, you know. Bonking there, talking about Larry Krohn. Larry on bonking. Not my thing, Jennifer. Not my thing. You know, not my thing. You know, listen, I'd have no problem throwing something at a dog to interrupt the behavior, something that couldn't hurt it, you know, nothing at all. Very effective. Throwing something when you can't get to the dog, right? If the dog's not on an e-collar, training, you have to interrupt the behavior, something that can't hurt a dog. For me, being next to an animal and whacking it over the head with something, not my thing. Not going to happen. I even tried at one point to be supportive of it. I really did. I tried to be open-minded. I can't. I just can't do it. You know, I think it's so detrimental in so many ways. You know, and just no. I tried to be open-minded about most things, but that just serves no purpose for me. None. Just serves no purpose. Listen, anything that works quickly, guys, there's almost always going to be some kind of negative side effect. Most things in life, not just dog training. You know what I mean? But that's just me. You know. Dallas, let's see, what's that say? I have a follow-up just for clarification if you have the time. I got the impression that your structured walks are always on leash. Can structured walks ever be off leash with the e-collar? Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Dallas. Absolutely. For sure. What I tell people, Dallas, is when you see me walking my dogs on leash, that's for me. I find it very therapeutic and I enjoy it. When you see my dogs going for a walk off leash, that's for them. Let's see. Nicole, thanks, Larry. I'll find it. I'm trying to get my clients to stop using the e-collar wrong. It's really ruined their high drive German Shepherd. Yeah, it happens. Listen, Nicole, I see and talk to people every day that have destroyed dogs with the tool, right? And I'm a big supporter of e-collar work. Got it, Jake. Let me see. What's this? Boris. Don't use the e-collar to teach behaviors the dog doesn't know. There's many easy ways to teach send away. Start with place command on car, reduce the size of the target. The target can even be a piece of paper or even feeding a ball. Absolutely, Boris. Sure. Yeah, no kidding, Bill. The vet story, you don't even know what heat it was, man. You know? Yeah, I was ready, really ready to beat someone. I really was. I mean, I saw my dogs. I knew they were screwed up. I know my animals and they weren't right. And I knew they went through hell for a whole week, covered with their own shit and piss because these scumbags kept them locked up for, 15, 16 hours at a time. No, hell no. That doesn't happen here. If your dog has an accident, it's probably because they're sick and you're going to know about it. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Got an e-collar 2-3 years ago. Afraid to use it. What 10 videos of yours should I watch? My German Shepherd is 3 years old. Does well with most commands. Big problem is he barks at people when he comes home. Oh, geez, Daniel. I have so many videos out there. Watch the last one I did with my daughter. I did 2 with my daughter when she was real young and a more recent one. Watch that one where I explain the usage of it. And there's so many first videos. Take your pick, The most recent ones will provide you a lot of information, Hi, babe. Jennifer, how would you deal with a dog being anxious in vehicle? He goes in vehicle, no problem, but will bark and chew. So end up in crate, but will still bark and chew on crate. I tried Kong, bone, and nothing helps. I'm just afraid he will break his tooth on a crate. Yeah, well, listen, Jennifer, I'm not real big jumping on the e-collar to fix problems like that normally, but this is one of those things that it helps so often, so quickly. I would take a good 2 or 3 weeks, go through the process of training him properly with the e-collar, and that right there should settle him down. It does. I use Luca as an example all the time. If I put Luca in a car, he gets so jacked up because he knows we're going to do something, right? I'll put the e-collar on him, and he just lays down and is quiet. Now, people are going to say, well, that's because you've hammered him before. I've never corrected Luca with the e-collar on at no high level at all, ever in his life. I've never had to. I don't need an e-collar for that dog, period. But I can't tell you the science behind it, but I know that when that e-collar goes on him, it allows him to settle and think and focus a lot more. I've driven from Kentucky to New York 15 hours before to where you barely even know he's in the car, as to where if I don't have the e-collar on him, he's so jacked up and anxious. And so, someone else brought up the last live I did. A lot of people don't talk about the calming benefits of the tool. Do I know the science behind it? No. A lot of people are going to assume because they're scared they're going to get hammered. Not the case. He's never been. But it does allow him to settle down and focus a lot. And there's been hundreds of people in your situation that have gotten back to me after I talked to them about that. They're like, man, that worked like a charm. That changed everything. That's right, Bill. No finish line in dog training. I hope I get to 20% of knowing everything by the time I die. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, I think that's all the questions. And a lot of you have stuck around for much longer than you should. We're going on an hour and 45 minutes here. My best, let's see, where's Derek? Where'd you go, Derek? Best way to recondition that issue of a dog on high and heavy stim. Understood all dogs are different as well. Any ballpark dogs thing. Best way to recondition that issue of a dog on high and heavy. You know what, Derek? 99% of the time, I just do nothing different except start over from the beginning. And almost always, there's never a problem. I talked a lot. There was a time where I remember at one point, I think 70% of the dogs that I was getting here had already been through bad e-collar programs. And that's all I was doing. And very rarely would you have one. I could think of 2 dogs that never turned around completely, from having bad e-collar training. One dog eventually did. The other one is still very submissive when the e-collar goes on. The one dog struggled because of the underground fence, not because they had an underground fence, right? Like, I work with a ton of dogs with underground fence. Usually when a dog has an underground fence, when you first start conditioning to the e-collar, they all have the same reaction. They just freeze because they're scared to move. Those dogs come through that, no issues at all. But this dog in particular was a Rottweiler I had here, and I have a lot of videos of her. The issue with her was she had blown through the underground fence so many times and got blasted over and over and over that when she first felt the lowest stimulation from that e-collar, she would try to get back in my house. I mean, she would try to go through the walls to get back in my house. That was the most difficult dog I had to turn around with the e-collar, and I just had to stick it out and be extremely, extremely gentle and slow. There was no food at first because she wouldn't take it, but if you show a dog a picture enough times without anything bad happening, they tend to turn around. So to answer that in a simple way, Derek, I don't do anything different. I just start over. If the dog was really brutalized and hammered, which happens, then I may stay away from reintroducing the e-collar for a while and really build the trust with that dog and all other areas of our life together, and then once I have that trust, then the turnaround usually goes a little easier. Megan, do you bark the second the dog turns to come to you and do with collar training the entire time you were training, or do you wait until they gets closer to mark? I know you do in the beginning. If we're training that, Megan, I'm usually marking the second the dog turns, okay? Because in reality, I'm only doing that type of training when the dog's learning. You know what I mean? We're not going to use food forever. We're not going to reward everything forever. So I'm pretty much going to be marking and rewarding the second the dog turns all the time, A lot of people, what I see them doing also, Megan, is they start teaching the dog, they start training the e-collar, and they're working on the recall, and they give the dog, the e-collar comes on, Fido, come, the dog comes to them, then they say sit, the dog sits, and then they say yes, and the reward. There's nothing wrong with that, but what you have to understand is you're now working on the sit. You're practicing the sit. You're rewarding the sit, not the recall. So make sure you're marking and recording and rewarding what you actually want to work on. Those little things matter very much. Let me see. Ken, hello, Larry. Thanks for always supporting veterans. That's my pleasure, Ken. Congrats on retirement. Thank you, sir. I always enjoy whenever I get a chance to speak to you on the phone. Keep fighting the good fight. I consider you a mentor. I still plan to see you in Florida in May for the combat vet spot. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you, buddy. I'm very excited about retiring. February 12th is the official date, 25 years. Now, if I feel like smacking someone in the mouth, I don't have to worry about my agency coming down on me. It's going to be a beautiful thing. It's been a very long time. It's been a very long time, Thank you, Edwin. Appreciate that, buddy. Good whiskey takes time, just like this podcast. Thank you, Jeff. That's right. All right, guys. I think we are good. Listen, folks. I appreciate y'all very much. I know it's been a rough year and a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of dog trainers have lost their business and there's not much. And I hate hearing that. And it's not just dog trainers. It's everywhere. We're not curing cancer. You know what I mean? What we do is we provide a great service to a lot of people. And we should never take it for granted, because when someone hands you that check, they're putting a lot of trust in you to handle something that is so precious to them. Don't ever take that for granted or take advantage of it. Treat the animal like you would want your family to be treated. And if you do that, hi, Mango. She's like, yeah, listen to him right now, But these lives, I swear, every time I get on, it's like, I'm not doing that anymore. I got to stop. My wife's like, please do. Like, you do a lot of them. I don't want to bore people with the same shit over and over. You know what I mean? But I talk to so many people on a daily basis that are really struggling. And it's the folks, you folks that send me these messages, these unbelievable messages, like really amazing stuff. That's why I continue to do it and put my big mouth out there, because when you put yourself out there, of course, there's always going to be some blowback and some negativity that you don't want to deal with. But that's a very small percentage compared to all the people from all over the world that really do and say really incredible things. That's what keeps me going. And I swear some of you guys have some good timing, because there's been days in the past month or two where I'm like, I'm done with this. You know, why am I wasting my time? It's the same stuff over and over. And I just want to turn off social media and just enjoy being home and working the dogs and doing that stuff. But then I'll get a call or a message or an email, and you guys just blow me away with some of the things you tell me you've accomplished. And that's pretty incredible. So for some of you that say, I hate to bother you and I don't want to sound cheesy, don't, because it means the world to me. And that's what gives me the motivation to keep doing this stuff, you know? And so if I could help anybody, I'm going to do my best. I'm just a guy that trains dogs. That's it. Real simple stuff. You know, I don't even know if I'm any good at it, really, but I enjoy it. And I think I could help one or two people. So here's cheers to a new year. I hope everyone has a great new year. Best year ever, 2021. Be safe, be healthy. And I'll see you all soon. And thanks for the never ending support, guys. Peace out.